going to go ahead and talk about an issue that you said when we talked earlier is one of the more firmly set issues in your mind. And what is that issue that we talked about?
This is about pro-life policies, about abortion. This is something I don't know. At some point, I want to make a video or have something to say about this. Because I think it's important to talk about. I think it's dividing a lot of Americans, and I don't think that's good. But I'm having a hard time figuring out how to do that because I just feel so strongly that like a lot of the arguments pushing for pro-choice, for abortions to be legal and accessible and to be used in any circumstance, it just strikes me as so wrong. And I'm not afraid to say that either. I don't know. I think there's something deeply wrong and deeply selfish about trying to end a life just for the sake of convenience. If there's something different, if a mother's life is at risk, of course that's different because I value all life, not just the life of the unborn. And I'd even be willing to make an exception for rape cases as well, because I do think that sort of that sort of violation is a little bit different. You didn't have a choice in this pregnancy, and that's what people are always advocating for. Is it should be my choice. I think your choice should be whether you have sex or not. I don't know if that's going to get censored, is it? Probably.
We won't censor it.
Sex. It's a normal word. It happens.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just hard because I feel so strongly about this. So I understand that there's a lot of issues where people just have so much energy in them that it's hard to talk about them civilly. Because I still have those. It might not be everything, but it is, for that one, hard for me to talk about in a peaceful way, and it's something I'm working on.
Do you want to practice now? Because I actually slightly disagree with you.
Sure,
do
for it.
Do we want to keep filling in the context of abortion and the unborn? Or?
Yeah, I think practice would be great.
About it for a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. So you said that you're okay with that. You can see allowing abortions in the case of rape. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. I don't know. The main pro-choice argument is, my body, my choice.
Right.
And the argument against that is, well, your choice is don't have sex. Is don't have sex with someone if you're not willing to accept the risk of having a child from that person. Which makes perfect sense to me. That's why I'm so against, elective abortion specifically. It's because I'm you've already made a choice. Now you're just trying to escape the consequences.
In most cases.
Yeah, and that is 95% of abortions.
It's more than that. It's actually 99.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I say that because that matters. We do need to know what the data is.
With rape, I feel a little bit different about it, and this actually comes from the church handbook. That's kind of what informs my opinion kind of on this, as it says even in the case of rape, put a lot of prayer into it, put a lot of thought into it. Take this to the Lord, because this is a big deal. But at the same time, this is a point where the Lord has said, you know what, this is in your hands, where He's got a little bit more understanding. So that might not be, great. I'm not in the same position as say Charlie Kirk was, where even in rape cases it might not be the best, but I don't know. I just kind of think about that. It's even if it is rape, that may not be a good thing, but I do understand where the choice comes in. Maybe there should be an allowance for that. Maybe. I'm not super duper solid on that either, but that's kind of where my thoughts on that come from. Does that make sense?
Before you say something, I'm going to try to summarize what you just said. So in essence, would you agree with what I'm about to say? You're saying, I think it should be legal in those select cases. I don't support every single instance a woman should make the decision to terminate the life.
I think that'd be a great way to say it.
Okay.
I was talking to someone today on my Instagram page who was conceived from rape, and she's very, very grateful to be alive. So I do understand wanting to make that illegal as well. But that's just kind of where my thoughts are on it. I think more importantly is elective abortion.
Okay.
I see that. And I totally understand that point of view. I actually used to have it. And I'm going to acknowledge right now, before the comments do, we are 3 white men talking about abortion in the case of rape.
None of us have uteruses.
Yes. None of us will ever
I could
have
this if I wanted to. If I want to be like the rest of the world, I'm not going to do that, though. I take more of a strict stance on the abortion in the case of rape. And I think if I were to think of it more personally, if my wife or my daughter, if that happened to her, I think my opinion might change a little bit. But looking at it on paper, I mean, why would we terminate one evil action, or why would we undo one evil action with another evil action? I mean, like you were talking to that person on your page who was conceived from rape. I mean, there are miracles that happen from that. And what right do we have? It's still different DNA. It's still a different person, a different spirit. That doesn't give us the right 100% of the time to terminate that fetus, that little child. So I totally understand where you come from. I used to have that too.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie Kirk was asked once that if his young daughter was raped and became pregnant, he said that he would encourage her to have that abortion, which is, it even made me feel a little bit, like that's kind of crazy. But thinking about it, like I think that's a good fatherly move to encourage her to choose the right, even in that situation.
Did you mean not to have the abortion?
Yes.
What did I say?
You said
to not have the abortion. Not
that was Charlie Kirk
go.
would say his daughter should not have the abortion.
Should not have
Good
it.
catch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, and that's what ticked everybody off. And but I kind of like that idea. Thinking about it personally, if my daughter were to be raped and end up pregnant, after and during lots of fasting and prayer and talking with God, I would still encourage her to, make the better decision as she feels that it's right. And hopefully that I've raised her to make right decisions up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I feel about it. I don't think we're too different, but
well, and just to
I
set a
wanted to talk
precedent,
about that.
since this is like our first serious disagreement on the channel, just want to set a precedent that no one has to feel the need to defend themselves. If you want to make more further comments, you're always welcome to. But when we share our ideas, it's not to say you're wrong, I'm shouting you down. It's a matter of, well, you've shared, I'll share, you share, and it kind of just goes around the table, and we're all equal. So, and honestly, I want the audience to decide. You guys get to listen to what we have to say. We're giving you material, we're giving you knowledge, we're giving you understanding and circumstance and context. You can take with it what you will and make your own decisions. That's totally up to you.
I do want to say, like, if someone has like a stricter pro-life policy than what I have, I don't think that makes you a bad person at all. In fact, like, I totally get where you're coming from. And I'm, this is something that I'm still kind of wrestling with and thinking about. What are my opinions on this? I think that's what's most important in any disagreement is like, I can see where you're coming from. So even if I don't agree and won't change my mind, then, that doesn't matter too much. This is a little bit, I don't know. It's not that deep. You know? Sometimes it can feel that way, but I don't think it is in this case.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Sorry. So we're all about having that difference and then finding the common ground. I think I have a pretty solid common ground for us. So we kind of differ a little bit on rape, on abortion. I think we can all agree that rapists should all be neutered and thrown into prison.
I would agree. That seems, no.
And I say neutered, isn't that a term for the dogs? Mm-hmm. I chose neutered on purpose.
So it's referred to chemically castrated, chemical castration. There's also surgical castration. I don't think that they stop them from being able to actually commit rape in the future. But the other thing is, I think
it demeans them at the very least.
I don't know.
I'm not necessarily for it. I'm okay with it because I do think that they deserve consequences for what happened. I think a more fitting consequence is either they are in jail for the rest of their life and they never have a chance for parole, or that they get the death penalty.
Raping?
For rape.
Yeah. I'm cool with that.
I think for murder and for rape, those are the two most serious. You're stealing two things from a person, either life or innocence. And guess what? Neither of those things can be repaired except through the atonement of Christ. So if I steal something from you, I can give it back to you. That's what fines are for. That's what, jail time is there to incentivize that I don't steal again in the future. Mm. If you've raped someone, though, if you've murdered, you've already lost one too many persons, innocence or life. I'm sorry. I think at a certain point. So I kind of see the castration issue. Maybe chemical castration prevents them from actually being able to rape people in the future. If that's the case, I'm for that because then they can still live, but they can't hurt another person the same way. But yeah, I think it almost borders mutilation when there are other means that we can administer punishment and consequence.
TLDR, rape's very bad. That's
Yep.
not a hot take. That's a sane take. That's the most sane take that I think you can take in that position.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that common ground in.
Yeah.
And I want to mention, too, that I actually happen to agree with you. I think it should be legal. And the reason is we can't understand all the circumstances that a woman might be going through. So, for instance, maybe a pregnancy is actually going to take her life. I think it is so tragic to think of situations where the baby's going to die anyway, and the mother now has to die because they can't do something to end the baby's life. Like, if you can prove and show that, okay, this is not going well, the baby is, or maybe the baby's already dead. There's circumstances like that, but that's not the issue of abortion. But maybe there's circumstances where the baby is going to have to die in order to preserve the mother's life. In cases where the baby doesn't have a chance of being born, I think we should protect abortion for those circumstances. And similarly for rape and incest. I think if a 14-year-old girl is raped, which is the example everyone brings up on the left, it's a valid example. It's very, very rare, but it is valid. I don't think it's right for us to make a law that ostracizes people that are going through those unique, even rare circumstances. But every woman, regardless of whether that was legal. So if we were able to have our way and ban 99% of abortions because it was just for essentially contraceptive purposes, I would still implore for that last 1%, please do your homework. Please pray about it. Please look into your heart and see if this is something that you absolutely should do. And maybe in emergency cases, there's no time for that. So that's another thing. But when you have time to contemplate this and decide for yourself, please consider deeply the impact that might have. Because I have heard from many people that have had an abortion that they regret having it, and that they also report being depressed following it, which it seems to last for a long duration. It's not just a go-away problem.
I've heard similar stories where people have just been traumatized, and just I don't know. It's not, you're not doing yourself a favor either.
Also, it's horrific if the baby survives.
Yeah,
Some methods of abortion are really heinous. All of them are really. Some of them are worse than others. That's another thing I would research. I implore you, research how it even takes place. It's pretty brutal. Just be educated. This is all we're about, is just be educated, make informed decisions. Another thing I want to talk about real quick too is there are people that have had abortions that the right disenfranchise because they so quickly go to, you're a bad person if you've had an abortion. Well, guess what? A lot of people that are for abortion have had abortions. And I want those individuals, especially if any of those are watching this podcast right now, to understand that we have deep compassion for you. Even though we personally believe it's a mistake, that doesn't change the fact that your soul has worth, that God loves you, that you're one of his children. And we should never let any type of political issue or moral issue give us permission to dehumanize people and to call them terrible people, and then they feel terrible, and then guess what? Did that help anyone? No.
It really doesn't.
It doesn't.
Another thing that kind of inspires me when I'm talking about politics with people, especially like with the instance that you just gave, Jesus said that there's more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than 99 just persons who need no repentance.
Yeah.
Like I will never have an abortion. Like that's it's pretty easy for me to be like, well, I'm so righteous because I never will have an abortion. But largely that's because that would be impossible for me anyway. But that's the kind of thing. It's like, if you've really felt like I wish so badly that I hadn't done that, I am not going to throw stones at you. I'm not going to.
We are all sinners. We can't throw stones. That's why Christ asked that question.
Big time.
It wasn't condoning what the woman did, but he lovingly protected her. He lovingly stood up for her and listened. And he basically just said to everyone, listen, if you don't have sin, if one of you is holy, go ahead. Now you have a right to judge. And guess what? Everyone walked away. Even the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the religious leaders of their time walked away. Why? Because
they're filthy.
Well, we all are. That's the thing.
Right.
We would blaspheme God if we ever tried to pretend we were perfect. So we need to keep that in mind always.
Mm-hmm.
So
one thing before we get too far, you were talking about doing your research and on the types of abortions on in those rare cases. I have decided in my own mind, because I don't have a wife to help me think about things yet, I've decided that if, God forbid, if I ever was in that situation where my wife's life was in danger, if we didn't abort our child, 100%, I'll meet that child in heaven, and I'm keeping my wife. But then you started talking about all the psychological effects that the woman could have. That freaks me out even more. So thanks for that. But it is good to think about. And I think
all these decisions are more complicated than we make them out
it,
to be.
It really is. And I think the rest of the people who are watching who might have the same mentality as me, I mean, like, think about it. You know, if you're married, talk about it. If you're not, then be prepared to talk about it, because it's. Yeah.
Well, remember, almost for sure, this happens with miscarriages. It happens with stillbirths. It happens with mothers that just barely gave birth and their baby died.
Right.
Anyone whose child dies, when you're a woman, you are intrinsically connected to that person. And when that person dies, your body releases hormones that lets you know. And you will go through a depressive episode. It's almost guaranteed. So no matter what happens, you're going to feel lost. You're going to feel pain. And I'm sure that there's exceptions to that, but that's just the psychological and the biochemical background into what a woman would go through during those circumstances. Anytime they lose their child, great mourning. And I mean great as in large, as unfathomable. So
can I say one more thing and then we'll move on? I think those who have opposing views than us, before you start hating up our comments, which is free speech,
you're free
go for
to
it.
do that, yeah.
Please do it. I actually like the attention.
You're
It's
free
fun.
to do that, yeah.
But before you start doing that, and before you keep advocating for abortions, just go onto YouTube or something, or your little dark pages, and look up videos of abortion. It's going to be horrifying, you know.
There's illustrations and diagram versions too, so you're not actually seeing the. You
can take that way too. The reason why I'm changing my career path and sitting here today is because I saw the close-up video of Charlie Kirk, and I'm not forgetting life changing. So, look up videos of abortions. It'll hurt you. It'll scar you. It'll be worse than the Charlie Kirk video by far. So do that, and then look back on your opinions. So.